to another episode of Books, Kids, and Creations, a part of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. I'm your host, Tracy Bloom, and today I have the honor and privilege of speaking with Ben Giroux out of Pennsylvania?
Plattsburgh, New York.
Plattsburgh, New York. I was close there.
He was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So you were very close on that.
I was in that general area.
Yes.
Yeah. And thank you so much for being here today, Ben.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know who he is, Ben was featured on many websites, including the Huffington Post and the Today Show, Good Morning America. It was named Poet Laureate of Plattsburgh, New York, and has also been the face of the National Autism Association's anti-bullying campaign for a poem that you wrote that went viral. Talk to me a little bit about this poem that you wrote and how it came to be.
Well, it was originally a school project for Poetry Month, and it was sort of helped go along because every single sentence had to start with "I am," and so I just kind of wrote down stuff at school and then finished it when I got home. And at the time, I really didn't think much of it. So
yeah.
If you want further details, it's a little blurry for me, but this guy knows more.
Yeah, because you wrote the poem when you were 10 and you're 16 now. So it's been, about 6 years since it was originally just put on paper. And I mean, did you expect that it would turn into anything after you wrote it?
Absolutely not. Heck, even now I feel like it's just it seems to me like such a small thing, and I don't quite understand how it got this big.
Yeah, well, it seems like your poem resonated with so many people who probably feel a lot of the same feelings as you. So when you were writing, do you write often? Do you journal at all? Or was this kind of just a poem that you just came up with?
It was, as I said, it was just a school project. I really didn't write before it. I write a little bit nowadays, but other than that, it was really a brand new thing for me.
Yeah. And when it eventually, I guess, kind of went viral and you started receiving, was it emails or were people just reaching out through social media? What was the response like from it?
Well, so to back it up, so it was a Thursday when he was at school in 5th grade, and the librarian had given all the kids the "I Am" poem outlined for them to complete for Poetry Month. And Ben completed all but the last 3 lines of the poem, and he came home that night and sat down at the table to complete the poem. And once he completed the poem, he handed it to myself, and I read it. And my first reaction was, this is amazing. Like the cadence, the rhyming, the visualizations of the words that he used, for a 10-year-old was phenomenal. And then you read it again, and then it hit me that, oh my goodness, my 10-year-old is pouring out his soul here about how he feels, because typically, being on the autism spectrum, he would come home and you asked him how his day went and you would get a 1-word answer. You would get, "Oh, it was fine. It was okay. It was good." All he wanted to do was get to, his room to play with his Legos at the time or play his video games. And so when you read it, and I realized just how much, he hurt, and, because he knew that he was different than the other kids at school, and he didn't feel like he fit in. And it was the 3rd school that he had been to in his young, educational career. And so, it hit my wife and I, almost like a ton of bricks to kind of, feel that. And so the next day he didn't want to go to school because he knew he had to read his poem to his class.
Oh.
And so we kept him home, and we had our regular weekend. And then on Sunday, getting ready for school for Monday, he realized, oh no, I'm going to have to go to school tomorrow and read my poem that I avoided on Friday. And no matter how much my wife and I would tell him that the poem was amazing and that he needed to read it to his classmates so that they understood just how much they were, he was hurting, but how much they were affecting him. Because there are times that, the children wouldn't even know that what they were doing
Right.
were hurting him. Like, he would sit down at the cafeteria table and then they would get up and leave, and they would get up and leave, maybe because they were done eating. But for him, he saw that as, oh, they're leaving because I'm sitting here. And he's like, no, it's no good. You guys are telling me that it's good because you're my parents and you have to. So I asked him, like, well, what if I put it on Facebook, Ben? How would that, and he's like, well, those are your friends and family. They're going to tell you the same thing. And I'm like, yeah, of course. Right. I'm like, well, what if I put it on like a public site? And he's like, okay. So it being April and being Autism Awareness Month, I decided to put it on the National Autism Association Facebook page. Within 15 minutes, whoever runs that page emailed me and asked me if they could put it on their main page.
Wow.
And I said, of course.
Yeah.
Within hours, that original post had over 38,000 shares.
Wow.
And 20,000 likes and comments. It was incredible, the outpouring of support that Ben received, when people read his words, because like you said, it's a poem that you don't have to be on the spectrum to really understand and feel.
Right.
That everyone at some point have felt like an outsider, have felt like they didn't belong. And so from that post, it went viral worldwide. And he was conducting interviews at the time with newspapers and stuff in Australia and over in Europe, and it was just everywhere. Within about 2 weeks, the late Anne Rice shared his poem.
Wow.
And at that point is when I realized just how big it was getting.
Yeah.
And we needed to figure out a way to protect his words,
Right.
because now they're out on the internet. Nobody knows who this 10-year-old is. And so I just took a shot in the dark, and I sent Aunt Rice a private message asking her for some guidance. Like, how do I protect, we're not authors, we don't know how this all works. And thankfully, her assistant at the time, Beckett, reached out to me immediately and said that, how much they all loved his words and his poem and how they connected with it. And he asked me if he could give my information to his agent. And so we said, okay. 2 days later,
Awesome.
Naomi Davis signed Ben to represent him. And then we got in touch with Roz McLean, who illustrated the book, who was also a client of Naomi's. And she did a phenomenal job illustrating Ben's words. That you have these words that a 10-year-old wrote, and then the illustrations just make them come to life even more. So yeah, when it went viral, and celebrities started sharing it, and we tell Ben, like, Anne Rice shared this, and at the time he's like, who? And we're like, oh yeah, I guess you're a little too young for Interview with a Vampire.
Amazing. Yeah.
But it was quite the ordeal. And even to today, Ben still doesn't quite understand the magnitude of how much he is inspiring people and touching people with this. And we only hope that someday he can really truly understand how powerful his words were.
And that's, you said so much there, like the whole entire process.
Well, here's the thing. I asked him to talk more because I don't remember a lot, and I'm very bad at talking.
Well, you're very great at writing. And, as so many authors who spend countless times trying to edit and fine tune and create these like masterpieces. I mean, there's something to be said from writing from the heart. And it seems like that's exactly what you did, was just put your heart on the page, and then it just unfolded into what it was supposed to be. And I'm sure, so I write kids' books, and there's nothing better than seeing an illustrator put a picture with something that I wrote. And so I'm sure for you, like, what was it like for you to see those illustrations for the first time when you saw how your words moved somebody to create in a different medium?
I feel like the same thing my dad said a little bit earlier ago, that I don't completely understand the magnitude of what happened. Heck, even me saying the magnitude of kind of confuses me.
But how did you feel when you saw Roz's drawings?
I was like, yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
They're really incredible. Like they're so cohesive with your words.
Yeah, I feel like the art in the book is very, very good. And I feel like Roz did a perfect job. And I can't think of many things I would change. And that's a good segue, Dad.
Yeah.
Good segue to what input he had in the illustrations.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I had a couple says in the.
So we had received the original drawings. Ben gets anxious. We had gotten the drawings, and when my wife and I looked at them, I mean, we were blown away. Because like Ben said, like the words matched up with the illustrations. And as soon as we saw it, I emailed Naomi back, and I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is wonderful. I cannot believe that somebody who's never met Ben read his words and was able to illustrate them so well. And of course, then Ben looks at it, and his first thing was a critique. And I'm like, wait, what? And so the last page of the book, all the airplanes were all the same. All the children in the book were throwing the same airplane into the sky, including Ben. And Ben looked at that and said, all the airplanes should be different shapes and sizes, and mine should be a different color to represent how I feel different than everyone else, but that everyone is different, but so similar at the same time, because we all can fly even though we're different. And it's just like, wait a minute, like how does a 10-year-old, I guess at the time he was 11, an 11-year-old look at that, and his first reaction was to, hey, well, this didn't quite match up with what I envisioned the illustration should be. So
that's incredible.
And then we were given the choice of two covers.
Okay.
And Ben chose this cover, but at the same time, the airplanes in the reflective in his eyeglasses were again all white. And Ben's like, well, we need to change one to be orange, to go with, to kind of give a sneak peek into the final, aha moment of the book.
And another thing is, this wasn't the only cover picture.
No, we were given two choices.
Yeah, and I picked this one because I thought it would pop out on shelves more.
That's very good insight for being as young as you were. Like a lot of adults don't even think of that stuff when they're choosing cover art. Ironically.
Guilty.
And since this book came out, do you have other kids coming to you now to talk to you about writing or?
Sadly, I wish.
Oh, okay.
Things haven't really changed that much in my school life.
But on social media.
Yeah, on social media, I have tons of support. It's just like no one I actually know in real life really hasn't really changed much. Sadly, I'm assuming that not a lot of kids in my school care really. And heck, maybe not a lot of them even know. And it's just kind of upsetting, the fact that so many kids who have great potential are just, for lack of better words, jerks.
Yeah, that is. But what's really cool is that you do have this outpour of support from people globally who recognize the talent you have and how wonderful this is. And people in high school, not always the nicest, and not always even thinking about, like when I was in high school, I don't know if I would have thought someone writing a book was that cool. But now at my age, I'm like, that's the coolest thing ever.
So we get so many stories. I ran into a lady at the grocery store, and she was telling me that she had bought Ben's book for her granddaughter who I believe was 7 at the time, and it was on the who was autistic. And her daughter had just started a new school, or her granddaughter had just started at a new school, and the kids were picking on her, and because she was different, and the kids were telling her that she was a weirdo, and she looked at them and said, being weird is being different, and being different is okay because Ben's book told me that.
Oh,
And so when you
awesome.
kind of hear, when you get that feed, like I started crying immediately, and I still get kind of emotional just thinking of, maybe he can't do anything about the bullying in his life, but his words and his book are helping other kids stand up to their bullies and giving them the confidence that it's okay to be different, that, things will get better, for you. And, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. So getting that kind of feedback on, nothing else could happen with his book, knowing that he affected a 7-year-old girl and changed her life. I mean, that's, I'm sure what any author, would want to know that their book did. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because, as an author, you want your stories to change the lives of those who read it. And that's, for me, that's one of the key reasons why I write, is because I want to impact kids' lives, and I want them to think differently and feel like it's okay to be who they are. So, I'm sure you could go around to just about every school in America and tell your story, and there are going to be kids there that resonate and go, I feel that way too. And that's really special.
I feel like in a society where my message doesn't come across as a weird one, and I feel like if people in schools constantly ostracize people and put people down because they're different, that's just not a very good way to build our structure of how everyone should live. Because if people are constantly fighting to be at the top, they're bringing themselves and everyone around them down. But if everyone constantly builds each other up, we'll all be in a better place at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I couldn't have said that better. That was
probably
very on point. So do you have plans to write other books, or
3
more books?
2 already done. One needs
Okay.
to be edited. Oh, sorry. 1 done. 1 needs to be edited, and then another one needs to be written. It's just an idea.
Yeah.
So now, are you kind of enjoying this? Because now you are an author, and
I kind of write when it comes to me. Like, I don't seek out to write. I just the first one that I wrote, it was because my dad was like, Ben, you should probably do something other than just sit around all day. So here, try to write a book.
Classic father.
What am I going to write about? And he's like, oh, just write about your pet. And I'm like, oh, fine. And then I wrote it, and then he just liked it, loved it. And then when we showed my agent, she was like, wow, I think this might be even better than your first book. And I'm like, I just wrote this in half an hour. What the heck?
Not even. And that's the frustrating. And Tracy, as an author, you will probably be even more frustrated, because I'm not an author. For months, Ben's agent has been trying to get him to write more, and Ben only will write when Ben wants to write. And one night, I kind of put my foot down. I was like, Ben, I'm like, no more YouTube until you write something. I don't care if it's a poem. I don't care if it's just a journal entry. You're going to put, pen to paper. And he's like, well, I don't know what to write about. And the thing that Ben loves most in this world is his pet snake, Monty. And so I said, just write about Monty. Like, just write about, the day that you got Monty. So he sits down, and in 15 minutes writes an entire children's book about his snake.
That's incredible. Now, is this in rhyme, or is this different than rhyme?
It's different. Yes. Okay. And so the whole book is about Monty being in a pet store
Uh-huh.
and wanting to be adopted and seeing comparing himself to all the other animals and wishing that he was more like every other animal. And maybe then he'd find a home. And so every page is the snake looking at the rabbit and going, I wish I had, a fluffy tail and big floppy ears. Maybe then I'd find a home. And then I wish I was like the puppy, maybe then I'd find a home. And then at the end, the little boy walks in and walks past all the other animals and looks at Monty and says, this is the perfect pet. This is who I want. And then Monty realizes that he doesn't need to change a thing about himself, that he'll be loved for who he is. And so, yeah, he wrote that in like 15 minutes, and you flip the page, and every time that he says, maybe then I'd find a home, it's so gut wrenching. And then the end is just so positive that, so it's basically Ben writing about himself, but through his snake, using his snake as the main character. The follow-up to that book that's currently being shopped is Monty Goes to School.
It needs to be edited.
And so Monty Goes to School is, same thing. Monty goes to school for show and tell, and he sees all the other animals and wishes, that he had colorful feathers. So it deals with body shaming and issues with, yourself.
And to specify, he's not going to show and tell. He's being brought for show and tell.
Yes. Okay.
And then, then things happen at school. And at the end of the day, Monty saves the day for being exactly the way he is, which the other animals, no matter how strong and how they could fly and all these other wonderful traits that they have, couldn't do what Monty can do. And so, and then now the third one that he's working on is Monty Goes to the Vet.
I'll explain this one.
Okay.
Because this one's the freshest one in my mind. So it's going to be a story of how he has to go in for an annual checkup. So nothing bad, nothing serious. He just has to go in, get like a physical done or whatever. So he's scared because he's never been to the vet before. And so we constantly go from this page where it's like, ooh, spooky car. And it's one frame, and then you flip the page and it's the same like camera angle, same scene, but just a normal car. And then they'll get to the office, they'll be in the waiting room, spooky waiting room, and then flip it, and then it's just a normal waiting room. And then it would repeat that constantly, describing what he's scared of, and then him getting over that thing that he was scared of, realizing that it wasn't bad, and at the end of it, coming out of it, being like, well, that wasn't so bad, and now I feel better. And it's just a story of anxiety and realizing that to some extent we have a little bit of control over that.
I love it. And I love the perspective of it being, the dual perspective that you're going to offer, because that's the whole thing about fear and anxiety, is it looks one way from inside, and from outside everything just looks completely normal, and no one really sees all the spooky and the scary. And so that's really cool that you're capturing it. Those illustrations are going to be powerful too.
Oh, and going back to the first one where he's in the pet store, a very big idea I have for the illustrations of that book is when he's comparing himself to the other animals, he imagines himself with those character traits.
Oh, that'll be fun.
So it'd be like it would be a snake with like kitten ears and whiskers wrapped around like a ball of yarn, playing with it. And it'd be like, oh, I'd be such a cute cat.
Yeah, that's going to be funny. Yeah. See, these are wonderful ideas. I can't wait to share these books. So I guess with COVID and everything, you're probably not doing many in-person like book tours. So is it mainly just like Zoom events and TV things for now?
Well,
he's my manager.
Okay.
Ben's been doing, a lot of podcasts and a lot of, Zoom interviews. Obviously he did the local news run when the book was released back in November. So social media is the way that he's getting his book out there. He did one in-person event that we were able to do in November at our local bookstore, where we did a little launch book signing, and that was a major success. But yeah, even back in October, we had royalty read his book on. We had the Princess Fergie, Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, has a YouTube channel, and she read Ben's book on that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, so those are the way that every time we Google his name, something else, his book was named top children's book of 2021 by Kirkus Reviews.
Very cool.
And then we just found out last week that the University of Pennsylvania also named his book as one of the top children's books of 2021. So yeah, he has a lot of success with his book. And the wonderful thing now that's happening is that a very talented music producer in London used Ben's poem as lyrics to a song. And that song was then put to a music video by a very talented student in London. And that music video is now going around the film festival circuit and winning awards all around the world. And
Wow.
we just found out on Thursday that we were nominated for Best Original Music at the British Animation Awards.
Wow.
So that is like a major project that Ben's involved with right now. The other film festivals were all like small independent, university students and whatnot. But this British Animation Award, the Foo Fighters are up for an award, and Ron's Gone Wrong is up for awards. So this is a pretty big
That
deal.
is
And
incredible.
we find out March 10th if Ben and Rory and Mike have won or not. But the entire project was for autism awareness, and we're going to be releasing the video on April 2nd for Autism Awareness Day. That is what we want to do now, is to help spread Ben's message of that just because you're autistic, you're different, not less. You're capable of doing whatever it is that you want to do. And we hopefully the book the poem inspired people. The book is doing the same, and hopefully now through the art of music we'll be able to inspire people that way as well.
So cool. Well,
And then
Ben,
there's one more thing that happened. The other award we got.
Oh, on Thursday, our New York State Assemblyman brought Ben to his office to give him the New York State citation for his accomplishments as a 16-year-old author. So when he was 10, he was made poet laureate of our town of Plattsburgh. But now he just got the state citation for all his accomplishments. So.
that is incredible. You've done so much and you're only 16. I mean, you should feel very proud of yourself for everything you've done. And I guess final question for you. After high school, do you have any goals or plans? Do you want to keep pursuing this career
I
path?
don't fully know yet.
Yeah.
For me, that's still a very distant goal. It's still hard to think that, oh my God, I'm going to graduate soon.
Yeah.
This is.
Yeah, he's a junior, so he has one more year to think about it. But
Yeah.
post high school right now, what is it that what career path are you thinking?
Well, I was thinking either IT, electrician, or some other like salary or annual like hourly thing. I don't really fully know, because as I said, life is a fickle thing. It changes. Especially with me,
Yes.
my mind changes a lot. One second I like this, the next that. You don't really know.
Yeah. And it's okay not to know. I don't think I knew what I wanted to do until I was my second year of college. I went, oh, I like writing. So
Yeah.
well, I've always liked writing, but it wasn't until it was like second year in college I went, oh, I can get a degree in this and follow this.
Yeah. Hopefully, if his next book series gets published, then maybe that's will be the little spark that makes him realize that, well, you could get a job that's Monday through Friday 9 to 5, or you could pursue writing as a career. So
Yes, you can.
yeah.
Well, Ben and Sunny, thank you so much for being here today. It's been an honor, and I'm really excited to see everything that unfolds for you. And thank you so much for taking time to be here today.
No, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, Tracy.